Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have the top 16 deck list for the PPG deck limited battle for the One Piece card game. It was an online event for the structure deck, I guess meta for One Piece, with 477 players of best of one with this top 16 that we have here today. So big shouts to PPG for giving us this information. It's also on their website. I just compiled it on my own spreadsheet, but definitely check out their website as well for this and other kind of event breakdowns that they do in general. But yeah, let's just kind of jump on into this. In this top 16, we do have 7 Kaidos, 5 Crocodiles, with 2 of them getting first and second respectively. 3 kids, as well as a Luffy in a top 16, which I was not expecting. And I don't think you guys were either. And especially, we do have this extra kind of top cut breakdown as well. Thanks again to PPG. So top 32, we do see more of these purple crocodiles. So it is a 13-11 split between that and the Kaido. 6 Usus kids and then 2 red Luffy. So Luffy did get that double there. And then a generic kind of top breakdown. We see that most of about 2/3, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Is that just a lot of people are playing the blue and the purple star decks with then the green, and obviously like red being the lesser of all 3 of them, or all 4 of them really. So I don't think that's too spectacular for us. It is cool to see Crocodile taking that first place after getting at least from Kaido getting first place during the core TCG one a couple weeks ago, and that is it. So we're going to look at the top placing deck for each of these leaders, starting off with Kevin Zhao's first place Crocodile list. Starting off, we do have Kevin Zhao's first place Crocodile list, and this is pretty dang similar to how I would be running it in an event like this. Specifically, there are no thrust pad cans. I really don't see the value from that card. I know a lot of people swear by it, and there are some cool plays you can do by bouncing your own like 1-drop blocker back to your hand, but by and large, I just feel it's kind of dead in my hand more times than not. And I do like the idea of not having, all of it, like not having it in your hand at all, and not having any dead cards from there. So I do like that choice add for you there. And then just doing a 4 of the Don Quixote do Flamingo. I tried 3 for a while, and because sometimes, you just draw 2 or 3 of them, they're just stuck in your hand too. And that is really my biggest kind of deck building thing for this game, is that I want to have a consistency where all of my cards that feel useful in some regard, because it is very tricky to not have them just stuck in your hand at some point in the game. So other than that, I think it's pretty generic with running pretty much all of your good 1K combos. I think blue definitely is the one that does get that power burst by going into 2 copies of important cards like Sentomaru. Of course, if you see this on like turn 2, you're probably in a good spot to kind of win this game. I also do like the Kuma, even though like it's bad at times, like on turn 2 to see what cards you're drawing and to maybe find a Sentomaru 1 earlier is good, or even just send them all to the bottom to potentially get a better shot at getting it. I think that's a solid choice there, but pretty straightforward there. Again, I do not like thrust pad can. Also, second place listed also did not have that thrust pad can in it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not crazy after saying it for weeks that it's a bad card, but we'll maybe see what the comments say below. So again, congrats again to Kevin Zhao as well as Chris Sock on second place with both of their respective blue Crocodile list. Next up, we do have the third place list. So this is Kevin Thammavong's list for Kaido here. No super, I would say what. The biggest thing is there's one of the 7-drop Kaido in this list here. It is a Dawn -2. This gains banish for the turn, which just means that you don't get the card to your hand. It's critical if you play Dragon Ball Super. You know how it works. Yeah, instead it's kind of like how the leader ability is, where you trash the card from your life. It's the same thing if you do damage with this guy here. So running one of them, I inherently don't love this card, mostly because yes, it is an 8K and you do pressure like a lot of hand advantage with it, because either your opponent has to counter out of this attack or they just lose the 1 card they would be drawing anyways. But it's a 7 cost, which is really bounceable by I don't know, like some of these blue cards that exist in the first and second place lists. But so it's an interesting choice for me, but I understand why you'd want to run it, especially since like sometimes you don't have anything to better do on turn 7. And if you're like in the mirror match, it could be kind of important because you kind of restrict that hand advantage. But I don't know. It's also activate main, so you have to like ahead of time do it. I don't know. I don't think it's a great card. I think is one too many most of the time. But Obviously, they got third place with this bad boy, so they have the final opinion on that. Other than that, nothing too spectacular. None of the all-star, but we do run 4 of the Bracho Bombers forward blast breath, which I think is pretty common. And then just the big boy good cards. So Queen, King, and the 9-drop Kaido as well. And these cards, I mean, I don't know, these are just a bunch of cards that you can end the game with just them being stuck in your hand. But, obviously Queen does help filter. Onigashima Island, you always want to see 1 by turn 2 and then never, ever again. And just everything else. 4 Who's Who's as well. This is a really, really stuck in hand kind of deck too, because Who's Who is as great as it can be. It is sometimes just stuck in your hand all game. And like in the mirror match, they're not going to have a lot of things, like maybe their Black Maria perhaps to blow up a blocker for 3, but it's still, I don't know. I think this is a great 2 or 3F, but 4 seems too much to me. But again, they got third place, so they know what to talk about. I'm the one who's crazy on this one. I'll say it for this one. Thrust at Pad Cannon, good. Who's at 4? Definitely not for me. But again, congrats to Kevin there. Next up, we do have David Fujimura's 6th place Usa's Kid leader. And we did see more of these kids list in this top 16 this time, especially compared to how they were in the core event last weekend. Specifically, like we're just seeing like what there's one in there. So yeah, just a couple more there. And I think a lot of people think like out the gate that kid was, and honestly, I for a long time I thought that kid was the best in the format in itself. But that's kind of just a skewing of the best deck from only having 1 copy of it compared to blue and purple specifically getting the cards that they want at 4 and being able to use them in that. So I think green is still probably the best deck out of the 4 just as a structure deck, but if you're able to combine them, that's fine. But I also think of all the leaders in this, honestly, all 3 of them except for Crocodile, I think we'll see success in Romance Dawn. But Captain Kidd just has a lot of inherent advantage, especially just his leader ability is probably the strongest in the game, maybe just under Luffy's at this moment, just because of all of the additional swing you can do, especially in a game that we don't have or you can attack with a card that you play the turn of. Being able to swing this back and forth is really helpful. So some choice decisions I see from David's list here. 1, only running 3 Basil Hawkins. I honestly, I think this is a very strong card. The only difference I'd say about this list I would do is I would run 4 of the Basil Hawkins and 3 of the Captain Kids. This is just really, really, like, if you're playing against blue, which is probably the most popular color you're going to be seeing at these top tables, you never ever want to play this card because you play it for 7 and then they bounce it back into your hand and then you just did nothing for 7. Like, you wasted 7 Dawn because of that, and that feels really, really bad. So I think that's the only thing I would suggest switching, because again, it's just rough. Though, Kid does have the advantage against most other leaders where you can always use your cards in your hand, so you can always just discard the Captain Kid that gets bounced back, or just never play it and instead use these swings with your captain. But I think Scalpel is good, Repel good. Both of these are good event counters, which are great. And then also Straw Sword, either being able to suspend something that is a blocker that you need to, you have to go around anyways, or be able to suspend something and then pressure it down but with attacks and stuff. So green still, I think, pretty super solid, and being able to play both aggressively or defensively depending on what your hand is and how your opponent's playing, I think makes it very flexible and still probably the most well-rounded list, and kind of just play style for at least this meta, in my opinion there. So congrats again to David there. And to finalize our video here, we do have Quentin Glover's place? Top 16. This was 13th place, Luffy here. And I'm still super shocked that this did get a top 16 finish in this event. There are some good things about it, and it does, I will say, Luffy probably has its best matchup is probably blue. Whether that's a winnable matchup or not is up to you guys, but just the fact that any of the removal that it has just bounces it back to hand. So if you have your big boy Luffy Rush Boy, that doesn't really matter because you can just play it again next turn and it's still going to have Rush on that guy. So I think that is something that's important and an insight there. But traditionally, I think that the only decision point that I see on this is the Zoro. I love Zoro as a character. I want to run this card. I think it's cool looking and everything else, but it's just, I don't think it's good enough in this meta here. Just the fact that it is a 3-drop with no counter on it, and it is every color has a almost like simple way to get rid of it, besides I guess red itself, which you're never probably going to see a lot of these mirror matches. But blue can bounce it back to your hand pretty easily and get that tempo advantage. Purple can just pop it outright, and then green has a couple ways. If you just swing with it once, you can pop it with like a killer, or you can do some other kind of tricky things for it. So I don't know, I think it's a bit of a dead card in hand, especially because it has no counter. If this had counter, I'd be fine with it, but it doesn't, so it's rough. And red inherently doesn't have a lot of counters in it, but we do run the 4 guard points, the 2 double jaw. I'm going to say it differently every single time, but 2 of these double jobbles, and then 4 of these jet pistols. So I think these are, I don't know. I'm so surprised this got top 16. So I do think shout outs to Quentin for their finish there. And Luffy's going to get better. Promise. We're going to see a lot of Luffy when set 1. But one in top 16 is, I think, spectacular in its own right. But that is going to be the video for us today. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Again, thank you to PPG for running this event, as well as giving these deck lists out to us to look at. And that is going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I do appreciate it. And I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.